everyone, and welcome to No Off Season, presented by MassMutual. I'm Zena.
I'm Sabreena Merchant.
And I'm Ben Pickman.
Today on the show, we are stepping off the court and into the culture. We are going to be talking about rivalries, money, fashion, and we're going to be talking to someone who's got a lot to say about all of that, especially with the fashion piece. That is Brittany Hampton. If you don't know who she is, don't worry. We're going to properly introduce you to her, but just if you want to cheat, think Paige Bueckers style. Yeah, we're going to get right into that. And Nika Mule. But first, let's get into what's been happening this week. So last show, we talked a little bit about the preseason games, things we saw on the court, but of course, we got to talk about things off the court. And let's talk about these numbers, because this is yet another WNBA season that is about to kick off, and the numbers of everything are about to get exponentially bigger. This isn't just the amount of players in the league, because now there's a new team, of course, but this is also about the viewership, the ticket prices, the tickets being sold. Everything is about to get exponentially bigger, and the preseason game that the Indiana Fever had against the Brazilian national team was just a perfect example of that. Sabreena, what is the stat around the viewership of that Indiana game?
So this was the first preseason game that ESPN has aired for the WNBA, and it averaged 1.3 million viewers, peaking at 1.6 million viewers. And the fun thing about that is that ESPN has aired NBA preseason games for a very long time, obviously, as a partner of that league as well. Since 2010, only 2 preseason games have outdone what this game did, and both of those featured LeBron James. So basically,
Wow.
the Indiana Fever, with Caitlin Clark at the helm, is on the same popularity level as LeBron James in the NBA side.
ESPN, if you're listening, I don't know if you listen, but if you are listening, this could be a really great indicator of things to do moving forward. Things to do moving forward. Put the WNBA product on your channels, even in the preseason, because more than 1 million viewers for a preseason game is aura. It's motion, okay? This is legitimate work for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever to capture this much attention, blowing out the Brazilian national team. So shout out to that exponential growth. Ben, thoughts?
Yeah, I would just throw 2 other stats in. One, we should mention that the WNBA is televising, or at least on League Pass, all 15 of its preseason games this year. It's the first time the league has done that in the course of its history. Multiple games are on national television in the preseason, first time in league history there. But if we want even one more point of comparison, which I think is super telling, like so many people, I think, in the public think that there's a huge discrepancy between WNBA ratings and NBA ratings. And, we try on this show not to just always compare the 2 leagues. But if you look at this season in the NBA, the average for nationally televised games on ABC, ESPN, and TNT in the regular season, it averaged 1.53 million viewers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The preseason game that we just, that we're talking about here, between the Fever and Brazil, which was not a close game, it's 1.3. Like, think about that for a second, right? Those numbers are pretty close. They are pretty
It's not
close.
apples and oranges,
comparison.
folks.
Right. And so
this is like tangerines and oranges. No, I'm just joking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, exactly. We should just underscore that. Like, the ratings between the W and NBA, there are significant differences still in the postseason ratings. When you look at finals numbers, for instance, but the objects here are closer than they appear, I guess, or closer than
there
people
you
know.
Go. I love that. And I think that that's really important, because that's all the naysayers want to compare the 2 and being able to say that, oh, the NBA is so much better and da-da-da. And like, we're talking about LeBron numbers and Caitlin Clark numbers here being in the same atmosphere. So shout out to the Indiana Fever, shout out to ESPN, shout out to the WNBA for making these preseason games accessible to their fans. Let's continue this conversation with more stuff off the court. Earlier this week, the Met Gala happened, and just like we're talking about exponential numbers in the amount of viewership, we have exponential numbers in the amount of WNBA players at the Met Gala. We had 1 last year. This year, we have 4, including Angel Reese, who was on the Met Gala committee, but also Sabreena Ionescu, Breanna Stewart, and Jonquel Jones. Sabreena, I'm going to turn to you. Out of the 4 who represented, which one were you drawn to in terms of fits?
I loved Angel's look. It was just so the cutting out was like really interesting to me, and I thought, I don't know, she just looked different than I usually expect Angel Reese to look. I guess part of it's being on the host committee. I'm sure she put a lot of thought, a lot of time into what
Yeah.
was taking place on Monday night. I also just loved whatever was going on with Jonquil's hair. There was just like a real statement being made there,
Yes.
so that was very cool.
I love the theme of the Met Gala this year was Black dandyism. And if you look back at this era, it was all about Black tailoring, incredibly well-cut suits, but as well as a lot of color and a lot of pizzazz. There was a lot of gold, there was a lot of sparkle, a lot of sequins. There was all these different ways to kind of spice up the average everyday suit in Black culture back then. And so you saw that tailoring in Angel's suit. You saw that with the bedazzled like jewels with Jonquil's hair. You saw the Brianna Stewart well-cut, all-white suit look with the tipped cap. Very, very, just a great ode to Black dandyism. Yeah, it was some really great looks, but I think Angel took it from me for sure.
If we just want to empty the notebook too, I mean, some of the things that I learned from talking to some of the Liberty people this week, Brianna Stewart, she had never even been to the Met before. So talk about an outing to go to your first, to go to the Met for the very first time in your life and have it be the Met Gala. That's pretty cool. She talked about, meeting Rihanna and ASAP and how they're both Puma athletes or Puma, rep by Puma. So kind of in just like she is. But she was excited to meet Pharrell and Anna Wintour, Lewis Hamilton. She said that Anne Hathaway was one of the people that she tried to sell to come to a New York Liberty game this year. And Zena, you'll appreciate this fact from Sabreena Ionescu. The person that she was most excited to see was not someone that I think is on a lot of people's bingo cards. It was the actor Omar Sy from the famous French show that is super popular and a super good show, might I add, on Netflix called Lupin.
Yes.
Just an
I love
awesome,
that show.
It's an
Yes.
awesome show. Like, I can't recommend it enough, and it seems like you can't either. And Sabreena Ionescu would be the third person recommending this show. She said, like, when she saw Omar Sy getting off an elevator, she freaked out, and she was like, oh my God, it's Lupin, it's Lupin, and it's Lupin.
Yes.
And we should say, like, this is like a mystery, kind of like crime-solving, like French Sherlock Holmes-y kind of show. So like, you're used to sequences where Omar Sy is getting off an elevator in the show and like solving, like going out to solve mysteries, basically. And so I can imagine her reaction and the jokes she had when she maybe seeing him in the flesh on Monday night.
Okay. Sabreena, I don't know if I could love you more because that is so amazing that I love Lupin. It is one of the best shows. First, if you're trying to learn French, watch Lupin. It's great. It's easy French. It's very easy to follow along. But what's best about Lupin, and particularly this Omar Sy and the Met Gala, is that in Lupin, his whole thing is that he's constantly in costume. He is constantly playing all of these different characters. So that even adds to the aura that he probably had coming into the Met Gala and being in costume, but also being an incredibly well-dressed French man. Yes, for Omar. That's amazing that she even thought about that. Wow. Okay. Wow, Sabreena, we're here. We're right here. We're locked in. All right, let's keep it going. A'ja Wilson sold out her A1s in 3 minutes, y'all. The A1s went online and sold out immediately. It was surreal. I tried, I failed, but that's okay. I will find a way to get these shoes. A'ja Wilson's commercial came out, and it was also directed by a special someone that many of us know. We are going to get into that a little bit more later, but as of right now, I'm just playing patty cake until we get to our next segment. We'll talk about that more later. All right, so let's turn our attention to things that we don't get a lot of opportunities to talk about, especially on this show, because we're breaking down the X's and O's. We're talking to you about the behind the scenes. We are giving you all the lore of things that happen on the court, things that result on the court. But now it's time to talk a little bit about things that happen off the court, and particularly the ways in which the W and the stories around the W, in the W, trickle down into our everyday culture. It's one of the reasons why people gravitate to this league. It's not just about the basketball. It's the personalities. It's the stories. It's the way that these women show up in the spaces that they're in, both on and off the court. It gives you something to gravitate to. And so we are going to talk about those things, the things that fans can gravitate to and have interest in, even if they don't know what a pick and roll is, okay? So first and foremost, rivalries, okay? This is juicy, maybe controversial. especially if you're looking at Rivalries Week created by the WNBA and you're trying to figure out, wait, I didn't know those two teams were rivals. Don't worry. We got you. We're going to talk a little bit about how some of these things got put together because the rivalries are a great way to market the league. Everybody loves choosing sides. It's like, I don't know, human instinct. You want to be on a part of something. You want to get some, be on a team of some sort. But we know that rivalries can also spur some dark things, right? Some negativity, some real hate that we have seen spill out onto social media and other forums. And the league's commissioner this year, Cathy Engelbert, has spoken publicly about wanting the W to have more rivalries, which is good for the game. But she also got some hot water for those comments as well. So let's talk a little bit about what Cathy said in regards to dealing with how rivalries spit out into social media, but then also rivalries in the WNBA at large. Sabreena, I'm going to start with you. Like, what are some of the current storylines in terms of rivalries in the W, and how has Cathy kind of referred to these and wanting to handle these?
So Cathy Engelbert, like a lot of sports executives, I'm sure, is interested in the power of rivalry to draw people into the sport and have a natural hook to sell people on. Like, you got to check out the, California rivalry between these two teams, or bi-coastal, or whatever it is, or these two players played each other in college, and really leaned into that basically since she has come on as commissioner in the WNBA. And this is the first year that the WNBA has had a specific rivalry week on its schedule in August. And you can see all those matchups coming up. They have ones that you'd expect, like the Chicago Sky versus the Indiana Fever, right? Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark. We've got Minnesota versus New York. Dallas versus Indiana, potentially Caitlin Clark versus Paige Bueckers there. And then some that make a lot less sense, but we don't have to get into those. I think the WNBA has historically been a league of rivalries, though. You think about at the very beginning, it was Houston versus the New York Liberty facing off in multiple playoff series during Houston's four-peat to start. The LA Sparks and the Detroit Shock played each other in multiple playoff series back when they were trading titles in the early 2000s. You think about the New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces of late. Before that, the Minnesota Lynx and the Los Angeles Sparks during the 2010s. There's just always been these matchups that have taken on an extra level of import, right? And I think for the WNBA to highlight that is just one more way of drawing people in and just, sort of drawing an eye to what the WNBA has historically been and making sure that newer fans of the league are aware of what sort of matchups have mattered in the past.
Yeah, I agree. I think rivalry is important in sport, period. But especially in the WNBA, you have a little bit, it's lesser teams, right? And so you really feel as if it's concentrated in the rivalries and the emotion around it. But Ben, you are on the record of not liking rivalries, which is counterintuitive. What's going on?
I just think you need a reason, an actual reason, whether that's postseason history, whether that's some of the things Sabreena talked about, franchise history, college matchups transitioning into the pros. This is a marketing ploy, and maybe ploy is the wrong word. Maybe they would say strategy, campaign, whatever. That's your perspective.
All synonyms.
All right, I was gonna say all the same.
Well, I guess my thing is just because you stick on the tag of this is a rivalry doesn't actually mean it's a rivalry, right? And that doesn't mean players actually care more about the matchups. It doesn't mean coaches actually care more about the matchups. It doesn't mean that fans actually care more about the matchups. Sabreena highlighted some of the maybe actual rivalries or the justifiable rivalry matchups in this week, but the Connecticut Sun and the Las Vegas Aces, the Valkyries and the Dream. Obviously, the Valkyries being a new team, so it's a little bit of we'll give
They're
the caps
kind of
there to league PR. But
we have no beef with anyone yet.
Right, they have no beef. I just think you can't just. I don't know. I have a hard time getting behind this idea that we can just stick a tag on it and say they're rivals and be okay with that. And I understand this is a way for the league to just draw fans in, and it comes in a point in the calendar where it's after the All-Star break, it's before the postseason. The NBA, as Sabreena said, has been doing it since I think 2022. In the NBA schedule, it's in the middle of January. It is after the NBA Cup. It is before the trade deadline. It's before NBA All-Star. So the NBA has found this little pocket where they stick it in. The W's done the same. I get all that. I guess for me as a viewer, and also when I'm sorry, I'm not going to go up to players from the Connecticut Sun in mid-August and be you got your rivalry week game this week against the Indiana Fever on, on August 17th, like, how you feeling? Like, the players might
If
not
I'm a
care.
member
Like,
of the Connecticut Sun organization, I am offended by how much the Fever took from us over the offseason. I got to tell you that.
Right. So they are a rival in that right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you know what? I really, really do feel as if, let's just be real. When you look at the NBA's rivalry week, they have so many teams, right? They got a large pool to choose from in terms of teams that, and then they also have 75 more years of history to choose from in terms of like rivals, et cetera. I really do feel as if the WNBA had to schedule some games. And they looked at and said, how many, as we look at all these weeks, how many weeks have a ton of rivals actually? And we're just going to slap that on there. Everybody else, I'm so sorry you're just brought into this like rivalries week tag. But it was really just like, we just got to choose a week. And it just so happens that Valkyries, you're tied into this because you have to play that week as well. I did look at that rivalry graphic when it came out, and I was like, yeah, this doesn't make a lot of sense for some of these teams, but I see what they were trying to do. The point is that there are some big rivalries in that week. So, but I'm with you. I do feel like you need that depth to it. Like you said, like, CC going up against Angel Reese, that rivalry coming in from college. You're looking at the postseason play from the Lynx and the Liberty, or the Aces and Liberty. Like, that sort of stuff does make a lot of sense. So, you know what? Maybe not counterintuitive. My bad, Ben. I appreciate your argument. I do. Now, is it possible to build more rivalries? Is it possible to build the rivalries as opposed to, some of these things are going to play out? I feel like if I was going to guess a new rival, I feel like the Fever are going to become a new rival, not to just the Chicago Sky. It's going to become a Liberty thing. It's going to become a Lynx thing. It's going to become an Aces thing. But, what is the benefit of being able to build rivalries, and how can you do it moving forward?
Well, I think playoff matchups obviously help. Like, I don't think rivalries are really cemented until teams play each other in the postseason. But I do believe that if you put enough narrative behind it, like, things start to build up. I think about when the Liberty and the Aces played each other in the 2023 WNBA Finals, and that was their first playoff matchup against each other. But we had been talking all season about these super teams going up against each other, and they had to hear about it all season. And no matter how much they said that it wasn't a rivalry, you can't tell me that those two teams didn't dislike each other more than other ones when they finally met during the WNBA Finals. So I think there is something to be said about manufacturing when there are conditions that, can create a rivalry, right? Like, I think about the NWSL, and like, they decided that San Diego and LA were going to be a rival when they two expansion teams came in 2022, just because of the geographic proximity. And I think it worked. I think the fan bases disliked each other enough at a certain point just because of, their similar baseball fan bases, and just, geographic rivals, I think, is a natural starting point, that when they started playing each other, the matchups had an extra level of intensity. And I do believe that, like, you kind of need the playoffs to certify it, right? Like, it can't be a rivalry until you've actually met up in the postseason, but you can definitely lay the groundwork for things ahead of time. And maybe it's not going to work for all 16 matchups during Rivals Week, but there are a couple where it might stick.
Okay, so Ben, I got a question. We asked Kayla Thornton at practice yesterday, at the Valkyries practice, is the Valkyries versus the Sparks, is that going to be a rivalry because of California? Is that something you can build for the W?
What'd she say?
I mean, no, she was like, oh yeah, okay. She was, I forgot, I didn't even answer the question. But she was like, yeah, no, I guess I didn't even think about that. There is another team in California, but she kept it really vague, pretty much. But I'm thinking from the media perspective, because it's really on us to kind of pump this narrative and help the W build this. Is this something that could be built in terms of the geographical aspect, like Sabreena mentioned?
I don't know. I mean, I guess some people out in California might try and build it when the two teams play. But I think in terms of building these narratives, like, for me, postseason play is something that is tangible and I think very real. Like, two teams who are battling it out year after year in high stakes games, like, start, forming competitive disdain for each other. Like, I think that's totally legitimate as like an actual rival. I think where you get, you have to be careful is like when you're just manufacturing narratives and manufacturing rivalries when they don't actually exist. And I think the Fever Sky conversation, there's obviously so many ways to take it. It's such a broad conversation, but like just sticking a rivalry tag on them, like, are they really rivals? Like, personally, I don't really buy into that. Like, I don't think, I think they're like two teams. They're in different points in their life cycle. I think people want to push this narrative that they are clear rivals. And I don't know if the people in each of those respective locker rooms really see it that way. And I don't know if like, Caitlin and Angel, like people want to, again, make them to be like very clear A to B, like rival and rival. And like, I don't think their public comments ever really indicate that strongly to be the case, like that they are clear rivals.
Yeah.
And so
No,
there are a
you
lot
make
of
a
other
great point.
factors that go into that. Race being a big one, frankly, right? Like we just have to be careful or cautious, or it has to be tangible. It has to be real. There have to be real moments. There has to be like real tension, not just like we say it's something and it's true, because that's where you get
Right.
dangerous if you just repeat something over and over and over, and maybe perception becomes reality, and that's how these rivalries become invented in the first place. But like, I don't know. I'd rather see a little bit of reality before perception just becomes reality.
I mean, Caitlin lost to 2 players on the Chicago Sky in national championship games. Like, that's something.
That's something. That is something. But I will say this, Ben, shout out to you being wise big bro here, because you're right. There are rivalries that have been created out of a racial dynamic that we've seen play out on WNBA social media. And even beyond WNBA social media, we've just seen it play out culturally. And this is what we were alluding to starting this segment about how dark these things can be. When people choose a side, it can be literally based off of, do I identify with the person on one side versus another, as opposed to a legitimate basketball conversation. So I do appreciate you talking about the fact that we also have to be careful about the type of rivalries, and also defining truly what is the rivalry that we're talking about, right? Is it just two groups of people pitting two people on a team against each other? Because you're right, Angel and Caitlin Clark have both established, like, we don't hate each other. We have no problem with each other. They're competitors. And that is the bottom line. However, the difference is some people want to look at it from a perspective of their racial backgrounds, want a perspective of, one woman versus another from how they look, versus the actual basketball that happened, which is they played against each other and lost. One person lost, one person won, and that's the rivalry that exists. But I like it. It's true. It's true. And I will say this on my last point on the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever. Your point about the life cycles is real. This year will be the differentiator between those two teams, in my opinion, in terms of where they end up at the end of the season. I think this will be a very big indicator of, are they really rivals on the court in the WNBA, or do we just have personalities that are rivals? I'll let you guys close on any final thoughts on rivals before we keep going.
Last thing I would say is just in this era right now of the WNBA where we're seeing record player movement, like rivalries change, right? Also, and some of the rivalries the league is trying to bake in are a reflection of player movement, but maybe it's a little bit more of player-player rivalries and personal rivalries between players than teams. Like I think, again, with so much shuffling around, the makeup, like the history changes between who is in these matchups, and again, it's like another thing that I think I look at as pulls back from me saying like these two teams are always just rivals, or gonna be.
Well, I think player rivals totally add to it too. Like you think about Aces Liberty, like Stewie's rival with Asia started when she was on Seattle, and John Quell's rivalry with the Aces started when she was on Connecticut. So I think it's all part of the picture, right? Doesn't change the fact that like when those two sets of athletes play, it still matters a little bit more.
I mean, hell, I'm making a rivalry between Indiana and Phoenix just because DeWanna's on one side and Alyssa's on the other. Is that truly a rivalry? Nope, but it's a split house, and I'm excited to see what happens. So yes, this is going to be a fun conversation, but it is true. We have to be careful in the way that we use the word rivals and how we perceive rivalries out on the court. But at the end of the day, it's good for the WNBA to get people interested and bought in, because now they have something to root for. All right, let's keep the conversation moving. Let's talk about another access point in the culture for the W, and that is all the different ways that the athletes are everywhere. In commercials, in social media, they're all these brands. They look good in the tunnel. They're at the Met Gala. They're everywhere. And let's just be real, we're seeing this at an explosive rate. But this has always been the W. The W has always been the league particularly in all pro leagues in the United States, that has been in tune and in touch with their fans more than anyone. You talk about the camp days, you talk about the way that players are staying after games and signing autographs and things of that sort. Like, they have always taken that extra step to be in touch with the culture and in touch with the community. So first things first, I cannot wait to talk about this, because when I saw the commercial, I think I watched it 3 times in a row. One, I was low-key trying to figure out the little, ain't no rap, that, he's clap, clap. I still am trying to figure it out. But if you haven't seen this commercial, you got to go look it up. Maybe we'll drop a link in the show notes to it. But A1s are A'ja Wilson's new shoe with Nike. And the buildup has been crazy. We did a show with her. We talked to her about this show. Definitely go check it out. Just talking with not only her, but also the shoe designer of how they came up with this beautiful shoe. And then it's finally available May 6th. And the commercial leading up to it was was directed by Malia Obama. Yes, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama's firstborn daughter. Malia Obama is casually a director and directed the cutest little commercial of A1, of the A1 shoe of A'ja Wilson. And there was 2 different versions I saw, but there was one where Asia's on a stoop playing Patty Mac. I don't know if you guys can hear me clapping, but and it's so authentic to who A'ja is. There's this young little Black girl that A'ja, you think about the fact that she wrote a book called Dear Black Girls. You see her interacting with this young girl. They're making this song talking about A'ja and how she's awesome and she's top tier. And, there's all these little rhymes to it. But Ben, Sabreena, I want to talk to you guys. What did you guys see? And when you first saw this commercial, what was it like for you?
I think just all of the touches that are very specific to A'ja Wilson. I think they said that it was filmed in the church that her grandparents, one of the scenes is in the church where her grandparents used to go to. And her parents are, there's 2 separate commercials, and I might be conflating the 2 of them, but her parents are actually in one of them. And just all of these notes to Columbia, South Carolina and Asia's upbringing are all interwoven into these ad spots, and it feels so much like A'ja, right? I think that's what they were trying to get out, and it absolutely works.
Yeah. And also, just to clarify, I think I said Patty Mac. I meant Patty Cake. They're playing Patty Cake on the stoop. I'm confused. Anywho, Ben, have you ever played Patty Cake?
Yeah, I think I have.
Oh my
God!
God!
Miss Mary Mac.
Yeah, exactly.
Miss Mary Mac. That's what I was thinking.
What
yes,
set to the tone too. Yeah.
Correct. Exactly. Yes. So Ben, what were your thoughts when you saw that?
I think about these commercials in a similar way to some of the rivalries, where authenticity is again a theme in both. And I just made the point about how some of the rivalries I'm not as into because I don't view them as authentic. And in this series of commercials and the overall rollout, as Sabreena said, the authenticity of the whole campaign shines really through. And that is from setting, that is from having Dawn Staley involved, that is from,
yes,
the jumping rope, from her family is involved. I think her parents are in one of the spots, to in the braids of the little girl, is the A1 logo that Nike has designed. There's just a lot of really specific, intentional, and authentic touches that are made. And I think that is why, this series of spots really has resonated with so many people right away. And when you think about, again, creating things out of thin air, the authenticity is what has cut through. It's why, I think the theme song that Nike is pushing here, I think there's a pretty good chance that when A'ja goes on the road to games, people will start to sing some of those words, or maybe it, becomes a chant in an arena, or, there are little touch points where we see that jingle cut through, because it is authentic and it has cut through, because of that.
Yeah.
So, those are some of the things that kind of stick out to me. Again, far cry from just naming 2 teams and saying you guys suddenly are rivals against each other.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm gonna tell you right now, if freaking Vegas goes off and starts singing A'ja Wilson is top, like as she's like warming up or whatever, I will freak out. I will freak out. If anyone is Vegas, please send the videos, please. Y'all got to learn it. You have to learn it. But yes, I think the whole commercial is a really beautiful rendition of like Black girlhood.
Yep.
And A'ja Wilson paying homage to that, and all the little girls that look up to her. And it's just fun. And I love Dawn Staley being a part of it too. Great call out, Ben. Yeah, this is dope. I mean, have you guys ever seen anything like this? Like, is this like the new era of how, like, I'm now thinking about all the commercials I've seen through the NCAA tournament of Flau'jae rapping and, seeing the Gatorade commercials with Caitlin Clark and in the gym. Oh my God, the Nike commercial, right? The Nike commercial with all the athletes, with A'ja, with Caitlin, with Sabreena, with
Jordan
what's
Childs
the gymnast name? Jordan Childs. Thank you. Like this new era of like how people are coming as a brand feels really visceral. Like I want to be a part of it. Like it feels like, do you guys feel that sense at all?
No, I would agree. I mean, I think the Flau'jae one is a really good note because like her being able to rap on the commercial and showcase like multiple sides of her, like presumably hawking a basketball product, right? Like while she's rapping, it's all part of the piece. But like, again, it just, you feel like you're experiencing the real Flau'jae just the same way you experience the real A'ja Wilson. And yeah, it's nice to have that sort of connection, I guess, just from these very limited ad spots.
Yeah. And the shoe actually sold out. It was like, I saw one place it was 3 minutes. Some people said it was less than 10 minutes. What was really funny is that Nike put up their ad for it hours after it had already been sold out. So it's like, Nike, you ain't even have to do that. You didn't even need to do that. And this is huge. So the shoe selling out, what does it say about this moment for A'ja and the place that women's basketball holds into culture? Because let's be real, there ain't that many basketball players. So these shoes aren't going to necessarily be worn out on the court. People are just buying this shoe, Ben, and wanting to be a part of this whole situation. Like, what does that really say about WNBA?
Yeah, I mean, it is another example of, again, the WNBA kind of cutting through culturally. And we saw that through another Nike shoe, too, just a couple months back when Sabreena Ionescu, who has a super, super popular shoe, not only in the WNBA, but also among NBA players. I want to say it's the most commonly worn or often worn Nike shoe among NBA players, or first or second on that list. Like, she went to Asia and went on a multi-country tour. She was the first women's basketball player, American women's basketball player, to ever go on one of those tours. And those were tours that, we've seen Kobe and LeBron and Steph Curry gave a tour this year. Like, that's kind of what we're talking about here. And it's the kind of thing that, like, you can certainly foresee someone like A'ja Wilson doing in the future too. Once her shoe, again, like once the sales continue to be great, and there are other editions of this shoe. Like those two examples, I think, speak to me just very clearly of, kind of interest in these shoes, and it is clear that like these are shoes that are not just for one person, one kind of person, one kind of player, one people of certain race, nationality, like. They're trying to just be sneakers and brands for all. And I think, again, those two examples kind of speak to that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's really dope to just see people grasping onto the WNBA, these players, these brands, and really appreciating them for who they are, right? I don't know if a commercial like that would have been accepted 20 years ago. Or 10 years ago, but this is now what people want to see. And you're also seeing that it's not just basketball related things. You've seen Cameron Brink had a storyline in Law & Order. Grey's Anatomy mentioned the Seattle Storm. Like, there are all these references to WNBA players all throughout different aspects of pop culture. The players obviously being at the Met Gala, like all the intersections in which WNBA players and the league in itself has become a cultural phenomenon. It's dope, and it's only going to keep growing. Now,
we should clarify with Cameron Brink on Law & Order, she was not consulted about the character arc on Law & Order.
Oh, right.
It is a character named Cameron Adler who bears striking similarities to Cameron Brink in a lot of ways. But
right, exactly. We know what she was doing, Law & Order. Don't be slick. And you are Law & Order. You should know the law when it comes to that kind of stuff. Anyways, won't get into that. We will get into a very special cultural icon and kind of consultant, Brittany Hampton, when we get back after this break. Welcome back to No Off Season. I am now joined by fashion designer and stylist Brittany Hampton. Brittany, I'm so pumped right now for this conversation.
Know, me
Thank
too.
you for joining me. This is dope for many reasons. One, I live in the Bay Area. We literally just did a Valkyries episode. So we're just going to keep showing the love to the Bay because Brittany is from the Bay. We're going to get into how that influences everything that she does. But Britt, I'm going to call you Britt. We're friends now. We got to talk about how people love you on the net. These are just a few tweets.
I'm like, feed them to me because I'm never on Twitter.
Are you? Okay, I figured that much. So one, there's a picture of Paige, Bueckers, and AZ Fudd, which we're going to get into. You've styled them. Someone saying, Brittany Hampton, the woman that you are. Another person said, Brittany Hampton, I'm putting you in my will, with a tearing emoji, someone crying. Just from off of how you have styled some of the best basketball players coming up in this generation. Person in all caps, bow down to the queen, Brittany Hampton. This is just a picture of you looking flawless, by the way. just doing your thing. Brittany Hampton, I owe you my life. All of these, by the way, a lot of these tweets are coming out after the WNBA draft. This is a cultural moment in women's basketball. Brittany, you had a little something to do with it all, and we're going to drop into that. But you're from the Bay, and my first question to you is, do you say you're?
Well, I don't technically say you're, no. I have lived in New York once or twice.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I feel like that's a New York thing. We're more of like a yay. It's more like a yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am a Bay Area, born and raised in San Francisco. So we're more like a yay.
Yeah, okay. Because you've been spending a lot of time in New York, so I didn't know if that had influenced you at all. But yes, the yee is very much a Bay Area thing. Okay, that's fair. I also want to get into just a little bit of your background, because while I was battling, trying to survive my last year of college basketball, Brittany had already worked at Nickelodeon, and she was battling it out, not on the court, but instead on a reality TV show called House of DVF.
Yeah.
And I'm dying because some of the people that you dress don't know who DVF is. Diane Von Furstenberg.
Of course they don't. Which is kind of a good thing, because I feel like the fact that I was on reality TV back then while they were still babies, they're kind of just like, wait, what are all these memes about you? And I'm like, oh no.
Why are you a whole moment before us? This is interesting. So you won that first season, and that kind of catapulted really everything else. Like you had already a space within fashion, but you on Nickelodeon, you were dressing Ariana Grande, Jenna McCurdy, and then you continued to become a premier stylist for some of basketball's biggest stars. I've named some of them: Paige Bueckers, AZ Fudd, Nika Mule. And you started in the athlete space working with NBA point guard Russell Westbrook as both his stylist and his wife Nina's for, and you were also a junior creative director on their brand Honor the Gift, which you guys have heard that on the show. It's because Georgia Amore wore Honor the Gift to the WNBA draft this year. Okay, so earlier this week was the Met Gala. You want to talk about vision. This theme this year, I mentioned earlier in the show, Black dandyism. And this is all about taking simple elements of style of the time and then flashing them up, adding some opulence to them. And I've heard you use that word opulence to even kind of describe some of the styles and such that you create for your athletes. But I want to ask, what'd you think of the Met Gala this year?
I thought it was cool. Honestly, it was so amazing to see everyone's looks across the board. But again, to be able to have the co-chairs that are athletes to also embrace and bring in the other female ones, like I think that was definitely a moment for me. I have done the Met one other time with Russell, and that was, I think it was 22, maybe, when he wore the Ralph Lauren. It was the All-American, and he did the star on his head. And, we did some jewels from Greg Una, and he wore Ralph Lauren, and that was like a moment of its own, right? But then doing it again this year, I had the opportunity to work with my amazing sister, Courtney Mays, who's an incredible stylist as well. And
Mm.
so, she got to be able to do Stewie and JJ and obviously Sabreena, which I've now been part of Sabrina's team for a couple runs now. And it was a moment. Like her teaming up with Sergio Hudson and honestly watching the process through and through was just incredible beyond words. Like seeing them collaborate was one thing and kind of just being in the room and then obviously helping advise in any capacity was great for Sabreena. But again, seeing it just all come into play, like knowing that Sergio dressed, I think it was like somewhere around 7 to 10 different people that he did. I was like, I am in awe of how you guys are creating this moment. And obviously, again, that ties into like the stylists, the tailors, the assistants, the team that's behind the Met Gala. People don't understand that. They're never going to understand that. There's going to be so many critics behind who wore what and if it was good and if it wasn't. But the detailed fine tunes of the whys behind it is really what kind of just continues to drive it. And so obviously, like I'll chat my faves real quick. Like obviously Courtney and
Yes,
Sergio
please.
did their
Literally,
thing, which I
yes.
absolutely loved. And again, that's my sister. And I was like, when I tell you there were times I was getting emotional, she was like, Brittany, I don't have time for this.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love it.
But who else is really good? I mean, obviously Flage was amazing, right? She wore Walter Mendez and she did the actual like walk and she did some commentating
Stunning.
work, which was great for her. And she was styled by Amira V, which is another good friend of mine. And again, just seeing everyone come together for this moment, obviously for us as well as Black women in this community, it's what it needed to be. Angel Reese killed it. She wore Tom Brown. Like you always see the boys in Tom Brown, but when you see the girls, it's to die for. She did that. She did that.
Let's back it up a little bit more to the WNBA draft because that was a moment. As I mentioned earlier, it is watched more this year. It was watched more than other drafts of quote unquote bigger leagues, the male leagues. And there's also this theme here between the Met Gala and the WNBA draft, suits on women. And you talked about power and tailoring and how important the fit of things are. You've said this in some of your other interviews about like putting when you put clothes on athletes, you do have to mind the tailoring, et cetera. But what I loved about particularly Paige's looks, plural, she did a change, she's done this before, was just how feminine and masculine. Like there was this androgynous energy throughout her look and her vibe. And you've talked about Paige being swaggy before. Others will call it Riz.
Yes.
She's got a lot.
The young kids call it the Riz.
Right? Exactly. So how did you tap into that, knowing that she's this swaggy person that's got this style about her already on her basketball aspect? How do you pull out the swag she has on the court into these moments?
I challenge her. I definitely do. I talk to people a lot about the challenges that we have. And she believes in me, which she tells me a lot, which I take that. I don't take it with a grain of salt because when she says it, I'm like, I don't know if this is another challenge that I'm supposed to kind of play on. But with that being said, I feel like I do my part in finding out what she envisions first, right? So when it came down to the WNBA draft, which we all know she was projected as going number 1, we knew that she wanted to embody an opulence that was, in her mind, rhinestones. She just wanted like literally cascades of ascending like rhinestones, pearls. She wanted that moment that was going to be like, I want to be the star, but I don't want to do too much. And she's very that, I don't need to be like too over the top type of person. I'm like, yeah, girl, I got you. Like, because my job is to turn you into a pop star. That's the job, right? That's going to be my moment to be able to be like, I know what you're capable of. And so through every single detail, from her hair to her smoky eye to putting extensions in her hair, Paige is like, I don't want extensions in my hair. It's like, I don't have time for that. No one noticed that she definitely ripped them out by the time the after party happened.
After party. Okay,
the after party.
I was what? That's crazy. I was like, her hair looks a little thinner than it was on the orange carpet, but that's hilarious. That it was just less full.
It was less full,
but less full.
But
anyways,
even
that's
in those
hilarious.
moments, I'm like, hair is a representation of who you are. That speaks power. You being in a power suit.
Yep.
I got to team up with Coach. So Coach designed
Yep.
her first look, which was on the carpet. That was obviously the Coach is now, in partnership with the WNBA. So we're excited to be a part of it.
Love
And they took their time to allow me to come in and design a suit for Paige during her last, literally going into the championship. We had about a week to do this. And so when it came down to
Oh,
fabrications, she had to
yeah.
trust me. She had to
Yeah.
know that I was going to nail it. From
Yep.
the fit of it to everything that we talked about, it was like she liked the oversized kind of baggy moment, but she still wanted it to feel cool. I was like, okay, I think I have a moment that's really going to kill it. And for Coach to sit there and, be like, okay, we can get this embellished plaid that's going to have 50 kabillion Swarovski crystals on it. They knew exactly what they were going to be able to do and they executed it. And honestly, I felt like she kind of gave me I kept telling her all day, I was like, you look like Paris Jackson. And she was like, who's Paris Jackson? But I was like,
Oh, no,
does
she didn't
she
know.
not give you? I know. I had to.
Girl, we all.
I had to pull it
Okay,
back. I
sorry,
had to
go
pull
ahead.
it back. I had to pull it back. I was like, well, technically, she's like your age, isn't she? But
I
on,
know. That's funny.
yeah, she was able to reference her as the actress that she was, not Michael Jackson's daughter.
There we go. There we go.
But of course, I felt it. And I was like, that's the energy that we need. And it
Yeah.
was every single detail of it. She picked her nail color. I was like, I think we should do your nails. I think we should do something fun. She did the cat eye, smoky kind of gray nail.
Love
We
it.
included the jewelry, the K jewels. So from Coach to K jewels to, making sure that every single moment was her and represented also what she could be and that character that she wanted to be in that moment. She sold it. She owns that cool confidence about herself that I truly believe makes every little girl feel like there's a little bit of them in her.
Right.
And I think that that's who the essence of Paige is the pulled back hair, slick hair, wants to go to the game and just playing that. And she's edgy and she's cutting the refs out. She's doing whatever. That's her. But then when she gets dolled up, she is a whole nother girl.
I think I mean, even we're older than her, right? But even amongst my basketball teammates from college, we all live vicariously through this
For
generation.
her. Yeah.
We're watching her teammates, we're watching all of them carry themselves with such confidence that we wish we would have
Oh my
had
gosh.
at her age. And so
Yeah.
the way that you were able to use style and use these pieces, and shout out Coach being one of the more luxury houses in
Absolutely.
fashion to make this move into this space with the W, but to be able to utilize these pieces from K Jewelers and Coach, et cetera, to amplify that and show that to the world. Because yes, I don't know. I should have said Paris Jackson because that's legitimately what she looked like. But she told
Yeah.
on our show, I said she looked like a rock star, and
She did.
she had this essence about her as if she had just come off tour and happened to grace us with her presence. And we were like,
With her
well, we
presence.
appreciate it, girl. Thank you for taking this time. But
honestly, it was that unapologetic kind of stance that she truly
Yeah.
carried in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about her. She has it, and I know she has it, and she just has to own it. And then she switched it to Louis Vuitton. And so I'll give you this tidbit.
Yes,
She switched it to
yes.
Louis Vuitton, which we knew was going to be a more tailored fit, which we
Mhm.
liked because we were like, we bring in this kind of Euro feel. Pharrell obviously said yes to her, which was a my heart moment. I know. And I had to reach out to them directly. I'll give you that tidbit. I reached out to Louis Vuitton
Wow.
directly and Pharrell's team personally, and he said yes to Paige, which is different,
Oh.
right? So I'll give you this note.
Yo,
Usually
that is
us as
historic.
stylists, it's nuts. So us as stylists reach out to the brands, right? We give them the
Mhm.
opportunity to say yes or no
Mhm.
or pass or they're unavailable, et cetera, et cetera. Usually, especially the luxury fashion houses, aren't necessarily up to par with the gens and understanding there may be a little fluidity in here. We may want to pull from women's. We may want to pull from
I love
men's.
that. Yep.
Some of them don't give us that opportunity. Pharrell did. And it took Pharrell personally to be like, absolutely, I want Paige in
Good.
my piece. So we did that. We put her in that. And honestly, again, another look where she just embodied elegance. Like she came out, she obviously, we taped her down, but it was a different poise. So just like you're saying, it's like when she came out and she was on the carpet, she kind of gave this like rock star element, cool girl, I'm here. This is my moment. But when her name was called and she had that, beaded suit on and the lapels were beaded and she carried that moment, it was just different. It just felt different.
Yeah, she felt there was just this power in her.
Yeah.
I mean, the moment was set up for her since the draft lottery happened back in December. Everyone knew she was coming, but the way that she owned that stage in that moment, everyone was so excited for her. It wasn't even like we knew this was happening. Why? No, it still felt special and unique and in that moment. On this topic of, that fluidity.
Yes.
This is the WNBA. This is a league that has made their mark by being one of the most in the community type of leagues. They are on social media. They are staying after games, signing autographs. They are the ones that are often leading the way when it comes to conversations in society. Everything that's going on, they're at the forefront, I would say, as athletes, especially in the United States. They're trendsetters.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has become more of a part of the WNBA atmosphere is the tunnel. We saw this in the NBA and, and the NFL. The variety of things we can see on that side, whether it is guys showing up in their pajamas from the night before to, tailored suits, et cetera. So we always got a little bit of taste of that, but it's always something different when women show up to work and show up in all these different ways. And Nika Mule was someone that won her tunnels. I mean, to the point that she was named one of the most stylish players or the stylist by GQ. And she come up all dolled up, et cetera. Why do you think that the marriage of fashion and the WNBA and the tunnel, and I'm hinting for you to talk about something, has taken off like this?
I mean, there's multiple reasons, right? I think that the reason why it's taken off in the women's field is because we're always just going to own who the we are. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Right? Women are going to stand in their power and own who we are. But there's also so many different things. There's a trajectory of what we can deliver, right? As in terms of women. So they're going to deliver the masculine looks, but they're absolutely going to deliver the feminine looks. That's a go-to. So it's like if we would have just came out, or if I said we, as if I play basketball and I'm walking through the tunnel. But if we were to walk through these tunnels in heels and, and tops and pencil skirts, like I feel like some people expect us to walk into an office corporate space every day, then we wouldn't define who we are as women. And the reason why I love Gen Z the most is because it's like they're authentic in who they are. The rookies and the girls that are out there really giving it to the girls, that's the moment that I stand for. Like they take risks, they're unapologetic, they're fashion, but then they also, they make their statements. Like they carry who they are through and through. And they push the boundaries that they need to be pushing. So it just makes me excited. It does.
As a stylist, do you I'm going through the list of all the people that really stood out. Like Nika, of course, in her team, Skylar Diggins, Nneka Ogwumike, and Shanae used to show up stunting on folks. But then there's also
I was just going to say Skylar's one of my favorites.
Yes, for sure, right?
Die.
Yeah,
and Asia.
I was going to say Asia for sure. Angel, Rakia Jackson, Cam Brink. I mean, we're seeing so many different ways. And then Arika Ngubawale. Natasha Cloud. There's so many different ways in which that shows up. As a stylist, you're styling very different people with different perspectives. How do you bring forth that level of, you're about to go play basketball, but you also want to look good? What's that balance like?
It's different per player. It's definitely different per player. I think that Paige obviously brings that cool kind of confidence. There may be days that she doesn't want to wear a bunch of things. She may want to just throw on a Supreme sweatsuit. We don't necessarily know.
Or
but then
Asia
at the same time,
white tee.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. There are those days. But I think that to characterize each and every single individuality is through their own storytelling. I tell people all the time, Nika is one person. Oh my gosh, she knows exactly what she wants. She's sending me mood boards better than my assistants do. She sends me mood boards. Wow. She sends me exact designers. She'll send me a list of things that she loves. And she honestly makes my life easy because she is setting a trend and she understands that, but she also knows the girl that she is and then the girls that follow her and how she can communicate what that style is, what that trend is. And she's bold in that sense. Like, that's why I love her to death, is because I was like, this little girl knows exactly what she wants.
Wow.
That's
Speaking
why
of
I became
trends,
auntie. I'm just the auntie. I'm like the
Wait.
rich auntie that's like, yeah, girl, whatever you need, swipe my credit card. It's fine.
at all times, I love that. That's like how, when you're referencing these athletes, they're your babies. They're your little
Yeah.
girls. They're your
Yeah.
homies. And the audience loves that too. I saw that in the comments too. They just love how much you love them down, and it's very much apparent in the way that you treat them. Speaking of
Yeah.
trends, before I let you go, I got 2 more questions here. What are some trends that we can expect as
Oh,
this
gosh.
marriage between the WNBA and fashion continues to expand? I know there was one time that you talked about how you do have a lot of Gen Z clients. So,
Mhm.
they're asking about the cyclical nature of things, or, the crop tops coming back, or certain styles from back in the day making their way back to the forefront. Is there anything that you're seeing? I see the oversized suit look, but is there any trends that we could get ahead of here at no off season?
I'm going to be honest. Okay, I'll give you one that I feel like is going to come back. And I don't know if that's like a little inkling that I have, like my little crystal ball
Okay.
is working. I have no idea. But I do feel
Okay.
like there's going to be like this 90s, early 2000s revamp happening. So think about this. And you're going to remember this moment. Name belt. You remember when like Gwen Stefani had like her moment when
Yes.
she had that Lamb, the clothing brand? I have
Mhm.
a feeling. I have a feeling we might have some old English moments. I feel like we might do the razzle
Wow.
dazzle little glasses. Just some cute little
Interesting.
nostalgic
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
school video
We're
girl
getting
moment
I feel like we're getting a hint of the early 2000s. Like,
for
I
sure.
walked into an Urban Outfitter the other day, and I swear my 8th grade graduation dress was in there. Like, I'm like the high-low, like,
I had
angle,
to lean back.
floral print, like, you know what I'm talking about.
I know
And I was
exactly
just
what you're
like,
talking about.
"Oh, interesting." And then, like, the bohemian belts, like, so we're seeing, like,
Yes.
little aspects of, like, it trickling back. But Harajuku Barbie era or
That's
Lamb
what I'm
era,
saying. The mixing the
yeah.
plaid and the
Yes.
doing the
Yep.
mix of the prints and doing what they're
Mhm.
supposed to be. Like, I really think that that's coming back. I'm here
Okay.
for that. I
Good to
also
know.
feel like that old school, like Mary Kate and Ashley, like, the little long beanies and like the little glasses.
Yes.
We're gonna clock something there. So with
Okay.
that being said, like if I would steer the Paige route, I would still
Yep.
make her a rock star in that moment.
Mhm.
And then like Nika, I'd make her like that hot music video girl. And
Yep.
like we'll see what happens.
I'm imagining Paige living in the East Village. Like, that's when I think of Mary Kate and Ashley.
Literally. That's
That's it.
it.
That's it. Okay.
Like,
Well,
I just want to
no,
catch all the old school paparazzi photos of them too, coming in and out of everywhere. Like,
that's the mood board.
uh-huh.
That's
Uh-huh. That's
that's
the
the
mood
mood
board.
board. Yes. Okay.
Mhm.
Before we go, I am very curious. In the women's basketball space, do you have a dream client?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I have to be careful how I say this.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Only because my roster is heavy this season. I have Paige, I have Nika, I have Cam Brink. You're getting a little tidbit here. I'm getting Cam. I'm getting Sabreena. We've still got Kelsey. We are working. We are working. So with that being said, I've got a
Wow.
list full of all stars. I mean, obviously, I've had the opportunity to work with Asia. I would love to do it again and again and again. Skylar's my girl, but I can't listen. I can't even say. I may say Kiki because she is a cutie, and I'm like,
She is such a cutie. I'm obsessed.
I'm
That gold
obsessed.
dress at draft. Oh,
See what I mean? But see,
yeah.
I
No,
can't
I
say all
get
that
you.
because then they're going to
I feel
hear
you. I
this,
feel you.
and
I
then they're
feel
going
you.
to
I
call my
feel you.
phone, and I might not have time.
That's
So
fair. That's fair. We do not want to get you in trouble, and we do not want to get your schedule even more packed than it already is. You are doing phenomenal work.
thank you so
It's not just
much.
me; it's literally the internet. That is why you are going to be in someone's will from the work that you're doing.
Listen,
So
that's a good thing. That's a good note.
keep it up. Keep it up.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, giving us we got a ton of tidbits. Guys, run this back, okay? And then particularly run this back when beanies and oversized cardigans and all that is in fashion again. You know where you heard it
We're
here
bringing it.
first. There you
We're
go.
bringing
There
it.
you go. All right, Brittany. I did say Britt earlier, but I didn't even realize I didn't ask you if you wanted to be called
You
Britt.
can definitely call me Brit. You can call me B. You can call me whatever. At this point.
Guys, this is big. B. Britt, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Anything
Thank
on your
you.
schedule for today? Anything fun you're doing?
Oh, yeah, we're in it. We are deep in fittings. Listen, our week
Okay.
starts. The season starts next week. We are
There you
literally in
go.
it. They've already started their pre's. I done slipped up and forgot to send looks. No, I'm kidding. But we are
You
heavy
on it,
in
we know.
fittings. So we're
Wow, there
excited.
you go. Okay, well, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
And
you
we will
for
be
having
seeing
me.
you through the fits in the tunnel. Coming up next week, an episode that y'all are probably definitely ready for. It is Fever time. Our big Indiana Fever pregame preview pod will be dropping on Tuesday, so definitely get ready. We've been talking about Cece and her new crew. We're going to break it down, see what they've been looking like in the preseason, and definitely get you guys some opinions on that. And then later in the week, before the official tip-off, we're going to bring you our big WNBA prediction pod. So very fun week ahead. And if you haven't, hit the follow button wherever you're listening so you never miss a pod and you never miss the opportunity to know who Brittany Hampton's going to be styling this upcoming season. And why not check us out on YouTube? Because we have beautiful guests like Brittany. And my reactions to her are better on video. So definitely check us out on YouTube. Drop us a comment wherever you're listening. We like to read them. And give us a rating. We're working hard over here. We want to help other people find the show. And as always, go check out other stuff to read and the other stuff we write at Yahoo Sports Hub, sports.yahoo.com/women-sports. And on behalf of The Athletic, Brittany Hampton, Sabreena, and Ben, I'm Zena. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to No Off Season. To hear more, be sure to like and subscribe. We drop new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.